Hello, everyone. My name is Spencer Brown. I am Marketing Support Analyst at Dickinson and Associates, and I would like to welcome you to our webinar on making the move to SAP S/4HANA. Why now? I would like to thank you all for joining and also point out that if any questions arise throughout the webinar, you can ask them via the Q&A button within the Zoom application. And as mentioned before, we will answer questions toward the end of the webinar. And if there are questions we do not get to, we will follow up directly with you after the presentation. So in just a moment, I will introduce Rob Jerome, our VP of Innovation and Technology, who will really kick things off, and also introduce our other speakers for the day. But first off, Brad, can you progress to the next slide, please? I would like to present you with a legal disclaimer, which you can read at your own leisure. The main point of this being there are inevitably forward-looking statements made throughout this presentation, which are subject to certain risks and uncertainties. Any personal or organizational decisions made should be subject to your own due diligence. And next slide, please. And with that, I would like to introduce Rob Jerome.
Thanks, Spencer. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody for joining our webinar today. This is the first in a series of webinars specific to the topic of S/4HANA and why S/4HANA, why now. In addition, we'll be having webinars on a variety of topics in addition to S/4HANA. For example, digital supply chain, advanced analytics, and topics such as automation, like RPA and conversational artificial intelligence. So we're excited to be starting what we'll call the webinar season, and are happy to have all of you with us. You're probably wondering why an S/4HANA move. Webinar is starting with an introduction to the intelligent enterprise and why the quote innovation guy is talking first. Well, Spencer or Brad, go to the next slide, please. Our purpose today is to talk to you about why switch now. And clearly on the right-hand side of the slide, you see the intelligent enterprise. So a few themes as we go through today that you're going to hear. And they're probably a little different than what you typically hear when you talk about a core ERP or the digital core. You're going to hear about transforming businesses by connecting people, systems, and data. Well, what does that mean? That means that S4 unlocks the ability to have your work life operate just like your personal life. Look, what do you do when you get up in the morning? You look at your phone. Now, I'm not saying that's a great thing, but I am saying that S4 opens up the opportunity for us to have a very connected world with our employees, with our customers, with our vendors, with whoever we transact with. Enabling new digital business processes and experiences. So we're going to talk about, hey, what does an S4 user interface look like? What new processes can be activated that aren't available in a core traditional ECC environment that will allow you to have a competitive advantage? We're all going through this really weird period right now, and the world has changed a lot. So when we have conversations about S4 with our customers, a lot of those conversations are centered around preparing for the future and creating or retaining a competitive advantage. And finally, lower total cost of ownership on IT platforms. Cost always comes into play, and we're going to talk about how we can reduce your TCO over time. Next slide, please. Before we go any further, a few introductions. So my name is Rob Jerome, Vice President of Innovation and Technology here at Dickinson and Associates. I've been with Dickinson for 8 years. I lead our P&T, Commerce, and S/4HANA Move programs, but we have two other leaders that are really the highlight of today's discussion. We've got Brad Hickett and David Hess from SAP. I'd like Brad to introduce himself first, and then David.
Hello, everybody. This is Brad Hickett. As RJ said, I'm the Vice President of Client Engagement, specifically responsible for our SAP S/4HANA Move initiative. I've been with Dickinson and Associates for 11 years and have been working in the SAP space dating back to R2, for those of you who know what that is, the mainframe version, so for 29 years. I'll be taking us through a little bit of that history today and provide you with some core content on why we believe now is the time to move to S/4HANA. David?
Thank you, Brad. Hi, everyone. David Hess. I work in the North America Partner Solution Center. Responsibilities are working with our great partners like Dickinson and Associates, getting them up to speed with new programs, high-touch programs, which I'll be talking about a little bit later, focusing around the business benefit, return on investment, some of the things that we don't typically talk about, but that's what I'll be discussing today. So thank you.
Okay, next slide. Okay, creating the intelligent enterprise. If you look at this slide, specifically the graphic that starts on the bottom left with SAP, consider that SAP ECC. And there's three options: brownfield, greenfield, selective data transition, to getting to S4. But from our perspective, what S4 allows you to do is it unlocks, it's the key to unlocking the door to becoming an intelligent enterprise. And a lot of people use that term, intelligent enterprise. The Dickinson perspective is that intelligent enterprise means different things to different customers. For some, it might be a better user experience. For some, it may be moving towards a more digital-based supply chain. It may be automation through RPA, through conversational artificial intelligence. It could be many things, IoT. But as we partner with our customers and as we partner with SAP, our approach to S4 is much more than, hey, let's do a technical migration, or what perhaps historically you thought of as an upgrade or an enhancement pack application. No, it's partnering with our customers from a business perspective to help them determine what, for their unique business, components of the intelligent enterprise in S4 can they or do they need to take advantage of to remain competitive in the future. So that's the theme that you're going to hear as we go down the path of why S4 and why now. Next slide, please. And now we're going to hand it over to Brad Hickett to take us down that path. Brad?
Thank you, RJ. So to start with, I'd like to lay a little background as to where we are and how we've gotten to this point in our technology evolution. Technology right now is advancing and accelerating at an exponential pace. But change has always been a part of the IT landscape. The original version of SAP that was commonplace in the market was R2. It was released in 1979. In 1991, the client-server version came out. And there was an explosion around that. So in the mid-90s, a lot of companies adopted SAP, built it as their core ERP platform. And part of that was driven by the Y2K issue that existed then. So SAP continued to advance that technology, and in 2004 came out with its first version of what most customers run today, the ECC platform. So many of you are probably on SAP ECC 6.0. The original ECC version was 5.0, and it was released in 2004. What it did is it changed the technology from classic client-server to a services-oriented architecture. So it began to open things to a more integrated model that has really taken off since that point. In 2011, SAP released SAP HANA, the in-memory database that S4 HANA is built upon. So again, the technology was changing and shifting for the better. In 2015, the first version of SAP S4 HANA, released 1503, was released to the market, and it took advantage of in-memory, and it had the reorganizations of tables in the financial area. But most specifically, it further opened the market to cloud and mobile enablement. So if you think through just this concept at this point, we went from mainframe to client-server to a services-oriented architecture to an in-memory capability to a fully enabled cloud and mobile technology. Now, if you just look at what SAP has done in the last 2 years and the advancements that they have put into SAP S4 HANA, the application is changing at a dramatic and exponential pace. There are advances in accounting. There are advances in sales performance management. There are new features in production planning and scheduling, complex manufacturing, advanced order promising. All of these things have been driven by what the market has asked. This is built on feedback from organizations like the American SAP Users Group. And these enhancements are being added to the application because of the changing capabilities of business processes, new digital business processes. But to have those fully enabled, you have to be able to be on a platform that allows for those technologies to be utilized. So let's take a little bit deeper dive into just that portion of it. If we just start from where SAP S/4HANA was released, and we go back to the last version of ECC 6.0, that had capabilities that allowed you to integrate with SAP CRM package or their APO or supply chain management package or their supplier relationship management package, and it enabled the new general ledger. So there were advancements that were occurring there, but there were limitations that existed, and some of those really were being able to extend beyond your enterprise to integrate with the digital landscape, to be able to utilize cloud applications and move beyond. So with the release of 15.11, SAP started incorporating new capabilities that enabled those digital operations, those digital processes. So things like production planning and detailed scheduling and extended warehouse management and advanced ATP were incorporated into the S/4HANA application. It also began to extend to the applications that were built to work beyond the enterprise. So packages like SAP Hybris and SAP Ariba came into play and were easily integrated into the S/4HANA landscape. Another significant change is that the underlying structure has something now called core data services, which allows for real-time analytics to be utilized. So as that evolved and built out further, SAP expanded that. They added more digital business processes. They extended the cloud further. So now packages like Fieldglass and SAP BW4 HANA came into play, the SAP Data Hub, and a very, very important one as part of the Leonardo package, the SAP Cloud Platform became available. Within the application, again, they continue to expand. So advanced variant configuration and transportation management and new projects capabilities were added. And the CDS views evolved further to allow for things like predictive analytics to occur. So now, where we sit with the 1909 application, we have really expanded that out to a full suite of capabilities where cloud applications like IBP and the SAP Analytics Cloud are fully integrated into SAP S/4 1909. And again, SAP continues to expand the footprint that lies within the 1909 application so that digital business processes can be utilized. So the bottom line to this is you may have been a leader as recent as 5 years ago with your ERP applications. I'm sure many of the organizations on our webinar today had integrations to their ECC environment. But what has happened is the technology in the last 5 years has advanced equivalent to what was probably 15 years when we first got the SAP R3 application in 1991. The time between technology jumps has shortened dramatically. So yesterday's leaders have become today's laggards, and that's why we believe the move to S/4HANA is a very mission critical item for each business. You can't wait because your competition is not. So let's look at what are some of those benefits. What does it really provide? So if we compare SAP ECC 6 to S/4HANA 1909, here are a few of the things that come into play. So in the digital business process arena, SAP ECC had very good capabilities and had good business models, but they had been advanced in areas like sales order management and fulfillment, improved capacity and scheduling management, and improved inventory control. These are core parts of every business. We all take sales orders. We all have to manage the capacity of our resources, whether those are true work centers or whether those are groups of people out on job sites. And we have an inventory of items that we have to manage, whether those are raw materials and finished goods or those are equipment that are part of our field services agencies. We have to consider the advancements that have occurred there. A very significant one that I will touch on in some length today is reporting flexibility. So SAP S/4HANA provides embedded analytics, and they are real-time analytics that don't require a second layer of a BW warehouse. There is a purpose for a BW warehouse. BW4HANA is a very useful tool, but S/4HANA itself does have embedded analytics capabilities that are far beyond what you would have seen in ECC. And these are all built on the core data services that I've explained previously. Part of that is the user experience. So the user experience does change. So everybody should be aware that as far as the SAP GUI is concerned, there's no further development occurring on that user interface. From 2005 to 2015, the single most common piece of feedback the American SAP Users Group and SAP received was that their user interface was outdated, that it was clunky. So they've addressed that, and that's what FIORI represents. It is the next generation of user interface. It's an interesting point that as companies are moving to S/4HANA, many of them are evaluating whether or not they should use FIORI. And we hope today to explain why we believe that is absolutely the correct choice for most organizations. There's many other things that have changed here. At the core, the data model changed, so the number of tables have been reduced significantly. That also helps with the ability to have real-time analytics, going from the classic database structure to a columnar database structure. All of this ultimately should boil down to improved decision-making, though. So rather than digging through multiple transactions and having to have 5 GUI screens open with 5 different ports running, today, there are push notifications that highlight business needs. There's very powerful predictive analytics and simulations that can happen in real time, and those lead to real business benefits. So let's think about that. Let's talk about that for a second. If you think about how any ERP application, but most certainly how SAP S/4HANA provides value creation, when you think of that, it really comes down to you have certain levers within your business that you can move. So elements like revenue growth or operating margin or asset efficiency, those are levers within a business that you can affect. So for example, in revenue growth, are you a company that grows organically, or do you have inorganic growth through acquisitions, so M&A type of activities? Or are you in a market that has very competitive pricing, so you have to have improved price realization? Do you need better visibility of your cost of goods sold so that you can manage your operating margin? Or do you need to better manage your SG&A? In asset efficiency, are you properly using your plants and your equipment and using those effectively? And then are you managing the receivables and payables associated with those? So as you move these levers and you utilize S/4HANA as part of that process, you can realize new business models. There's new business segments that you can open up. You can change the model. The classic story in the marketplace are companies like Airbnb and Uber who don't own assets and yet have really achieved a very interesting business model. So things like subscription models and a change in the look at how you utilize assets has become very important in the market today. You also have to be able to react to this faster. So faster cycles with lower risk are very important. You need to be able to analyze your financials very quickly. Today, we're a highly regulated country. So, things about regulatory and statutory reporting really have to be transparent within the organization. So as you move many of these levers, you can achieve real business benefit. And what we've seen so far in the 5 years that S/4HANA is out is that companies have realized those through the use of the application. So we've seen companies who feel that they have grown their revenue 14% because of improved customer-facing activities, better sales order management, better ability to plan their products and deliver on a on-time basis. So we've seen companies realize 15% on-time deliveries and 42% faster service delivery. And even secondary processes such as research and development expense have been improved, or quite frankly, at a core, material requirements planning can run faster. And so from that, we can have better use of our inventories, use our capital better, and even utilize our labor more effectively. So ultimately, the use of S/4HANA enables your ability to change a business process, to improve a business process, and most importantly, have insights to the business process that you did not previously have, so that you can drive true value creation with S/4HANA. So now let's peel that back a layer. Let's take a look at what improvements and what capabilities have been delivered in really the different functional silos that exist within a business. So if we look at it in terms of things like procurement and sales and manufacturing, how does S/4HANA provide this capability? So the first thing is new insights, new reporting capabilities. I referred to it as embedded analytics previously. So S/4HANA delivers things called overview or analytics pages that really have very powerful insights for your organization that allow you to react much quicker to a problem than you would have in the classic SAP ECC environment. It can also improve the performance of your business because your order fulfillment or your real-time inventory can improve. And even just operational processes like running MRP with MRP Live or a better structure with the new GL is very powerful. And then if you include advanced capabilities and insights with things like geo-tracking and geo-enablement, there's really wonderful capabilities that can be exposed. So let's take that the next layer. So what's new within S/4HANA? Because S/4HANA did build in capabilities that were not previously part of ECC. So EWM, Extended Warehouse Management, was a capability that you could use with ECC, but it actually required the stand-up of a secondary server, where with S/4HANA, that is a single installation. EWM is embedded into S/4HANA, as is PPDS. Production planning and detailed scheduling. So those types of capabilities have now been built into S/4HANA as part of the core application. But then SAP's taken that further with new capabilities such as an improved closing cockpit, or commodities management, or project and portfolio management. These are new capabilities that have been added to the SAP S/4HANA stack. There are also what we call next generation products that you can utilize with S/4HANA. So things like advanced available to promise, so advanced ATP, or demand-driven MRP, a new type of MRP planning. So a lot of advancements in features that already existed in S/4HANA, but today have had additional capabilities provided. So complex manufacturing, advanced variant configuration, the compliance framework within financial reporting. All of these capabilities can be exposed when you're on S/4HANA. There's also truly technology advancements that can be exposed with S/4HANA. So things like machine learning and predictive capabilities. So the system now allows you to have things like predictive stock in transit and even have conversational interaction with the system with Copilot as part of the conversational AI environment. So it's not even solely bound by the boundaries of S/4HANA. There are capabilities that have been able to extend beyond what you would typically think of as inside your four walls, or even interacting with your current customer and vendor base. This advances out to being able to engage new customers, to discover markets and customers that you did not previously have. And then finally, with the cloud applications available in today's market, every area has some enabling technology. So in procurement, the Ariba network, or in sales, the ability to use the Hybris channel, in planning, the integrated business planning. Each area has a cloud application that extends the capabilities of S/4HANA and really allows for you to realize the next level of technology and what the future marketplace will look like. So let's take a deeper dive into some of those business insights. So when I talk about business insights and embedded analytics, what does that really mean? So to start with, it starts with SAP FIORI. This is the new user interface, and as I stated before, for 10 years, from 2005 to 2015, one of the most common pieces of feedback SAP received was about the user interface. FIORI is an award-winning user interface that is device agnostic. It can be run on your desktop, your laptop, your tablet, or your smartphone with, for all practical purposes, the same user interface, the same look and feel. But what's most important is not that it's a new user interface, but how the user interface helps you create a organization that is a organization of innovation and that is a responsive organization. So if we first start by taking a simple look at what the FIORI desktop looks like, there are apps. So the white squares that you see in the center section here called the viewport are apps. So think of an app on your phone. We all have an app for our email, and we all have an app for probably a weather channel, and we might have a sports app on there, and Instagram and Facebook. So all of those are apps. The same is true with FIORI. Each one of these is an app. And within those apps, you see some interesting information that we'll dive a little deeper into. But before I do that, understand that the FIORI viewpoint is such a comprehensive set of tools that it's not all displayed on your landing page. So on the right-hand side, we have integrated notifications. So a notification pushes to you. It tells you right now that you have something you may need to do. So you may need to improve a blocked invoice, or you may need to release an order that's gone on block, or you may need to complete the construction of a material master as part of the system. Those are notifications that can be pushed to you. And again, because S/4HANA is device agnostic, this can be done from your smartphone. If you're at your kid's soccer game on a Saturday morning and a important purchase requisition needs to be approved, there's no need to have to drive home and quickly get on your laptop. From your device, you can actually accept that and approve that right there. You also have what's called the Me area, which is your ability to control your desktop. So to add apps, to remove apps, to resequence apps. So each user has a particular capability to adjust their own desktop. Now, with that said, there are certain limitations to that. FIORI is based on internal security. So the tiles that are displayed are based on a role-based, personalized, and real-time contextual aggregation. So if you see at the top there are several words across the top that say My Home and Supplier Management and Purchasing Analytics. So this is obviously a role that is within the purchasing realm. So their tiles and their apps are based on the security that they have as a person in the purchasing department. The notifications would then be based on that too. So the types of notifications that they would get would be related to approving purchase requisitions. But again, they're fully device agnostic. So you can deal with approving a purchase rec from your smartphone. Possibly the most important aspect here is that the apps have, they're dynamic. They have contextual information to them. So there are color-coded alerts for items that have exceeded certain limits or overdue. So in this case, we're pointing towards something that says 91.25%. Well, so that is past some limit. It is warning the end user as soon as they log in that they have a situation related to non-managed spend that they probably need to address. So in this way, it becomes a system of engagement. SAP is pushing the information to the end user to say, hey, there is an out-of-control situation and you need to react to that. It goes even farther in that there can be dynamic charts built into the tile. So you can even see certain key performance indicators as part of the tile to let you know exactly how you need to react. But the real beauty is, as a part of a system of engagement, when you click on these tiles, you drill into the exact problem. It will take you to the analytical analysis and the list reports, and then eventually down to the actual transactions that need to be adjusted or impacted to bring the situation back into control. So as compared to an ECC environment where a person may not run the report till right before they go on lunch at 11:30 and realize that there's a problem, and then go to lunch and then rerun the report when they get back and react to it, it may be 2 o'clock in the afternoon before they've really uncovered what the problem is. With FIORI, when a user logs in at the beginning of the day, they're immediately greeted with, here are the key items that you've wanted to have visibility to, and whether any of them are out of control, so you should react to these situations quickly. So once you do that, there's also incredibly powerful tools within FIORI that did not exist before that can help you research problems. So for example, one of the most interesting tools that we've seen with customers using S/4HANA and FIORI is the enterprise search capabilities. Within S/4HANA, there's an ability to search for a word, a phrase, and get results that mean a variety of different purposes within the system. So for example, if I search for the word packaging, in some way, shape, or form, many businesses use packaging, I can get everything from a purchase order that is to purchase the packaging, or I can get a invoice that needs to be paid that's related to packaging, or I can see the GL account where we collect the information related to packaging. Or if I've got packaging within a network, within a project, I can see those elements pop out of the project itself. So this enterprise search does a full-featured search of the system. It also searches for apps, for tiles that have the word packaging in it. So you see here in the center a batch-based packaging app. So it's truly doing a search for that word in a Google-esque type of fashion across the entire platform. And what does that mean? So that means that the efficiency of your team can immediately increase. There's an ability to find the information that your employees need with a simple search. And that it goes across all business objects. So whether we're talking materials, customers, or even the apps that are used, it's there. And it's always present. The search icon is right on the desktop of FIORI, so it's an easy-to-find, classic magnifying glass icon. Now let's take that a step further with the insights. The insights of S/4HANA really do become very powerful. If you think about the types of reports that you typically run within ECC, the traditional operating reports, such as VA05. VA05 is a SAP transaction code that runs a list of sales orders. That has a very classic row and column feel to it. For those of you who are SAP familiar, an ALV type of report. And the information was good, but you had to go pull it. You had to give it criteria and extract that information and get to a list report that then most people downloaded to Excel and then started to do some analysis on. With S/4HANA, Real-time analytics provide real-time insights and alerts to you. So you know when you need to be looking at your list of sales orders. You know when that out of control situation is, and the analysis has already started for you because it's being presented to you as embedded analytics. But it doesn't stop at the analytic presentation. You can drill down from any one of these analytics apps and get to the list report, and you can actually then drill into the actual object that needs to be addressed. So it is just a method of engaging your workforce more effectively and more quickly. So these are presented often in what are called domain pages. There are analytics pages, or as I referred to them earlier, overview pages. They provide information that is accessible and drillable, and it shows relevant information so that it can trigger quick actions. The various types of embedded analytics that exist within S/4HANA range from the tiles that I talked about, the color-coded KPI monitoring tiles that are being updated real-time. You do not have to refresh your screen. These are updated real-time, and they represent your personal view to the business. So think of it as a personal variant, so that information is being pushed to your workers so they know they need to react to a business situation. They can then use overview pages to get further detail. And it continues to flow down from there into analytic list pages that combine analytics with the list reports. And you can even get into items that are multi-dimensional reports. So think of pivot table type of analysis combined with charts. And then ultimately, if you want to take that really further, you can incorporate dashboards capabilities with things like the SAP Cloud Platform. Here's an example of a very commonly used sales management overview page. It includes things like incoming sales orders, customer returns, incomplete sales documents, back-ordered items, profit margin, block sales orders, and overdue sales orders. The reason I take the time to list all those out is because those are real business KPIs that most of our customers are interested in seeing. So these are analytics that can be useful from the day you move into S/4HANA. So ultimately, at the core, we believe why move to S/4HANA and why now is because it introduces you to these types of capabilities. It opens the door to the intelligent enterprise by exposing data and enabling business processes, allowing for advanced automations so that ultimately there are benefits for your enterprise. You can have things such as increased enterprise visibility through analytics. You can focus your resources where they need to be focused. And ultimately, you can redefine your business processes so that they've been empowered. So then the next question that we most commonly get is, so how do I justify this? How do I justify the move to S/4HANA? Because so many companies think of it as a technical move. And part of what we're suggesting to you today is it shouldn't just be a technical move. You should be looking at what is your roadmap and what do you want to get out of the intelligent enterprise. So to help us understand how we might be able to provide a business case for that, I'm going to pass the baton over to David Hess with SAP.
Thank you, Brad. And yes, just to reiterate what Brad had finished with, we did some surveys and just speaking to our customer base around, some of the areas that of a concern to the customer, to you, when it comes to moving to S/4HANA. We do a very good job at the technology, as Brad mentioned, at the feature function aspect of moving to S4. But we seem to have a little gap here, and the gap is the business benefit, the business case, the ROI, and what makes sense in terms of moving to S/4HANA. And that's just a comfort thing. We're very comfortable, SAP and our partners, very comfortable with the technology. We're not necessarily so comfortable with talking about numbers or talking about the business, but this is something that is way high on the radar with many of our customers. So we're going to talk about a product, a tool that we recently announced. It's been around in different iterations, but if you want to move the slide forward, Brad. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to get an understanding first of the customers, your ECC environment. So we're trying to build out, if you can just go forward, we're trying to make sure that we have a good understanding of your current environment. We have various ways of gathering that information, basically scoping that information out. Also providing some company information that we may need to build the business case. And so if we go to the next one, once we have that information, we can then go ahead and build a business case, something that is very close to your current environment, and what in turn shows what could potentially be a return on investment in a fairly short period of time. S/4HANA will certainly have a return on investment. It depends on your requirements, depends on the types of capabilities that you're looking for. Sometimes it depends on the industry. But in every case, S/4HANA will eventually have a cutoff point and a return on investment where you'll be in a positive cash flow by moving to that platform. So if we go to the next one here, as you can see, we're looking to show the value. We're trying to get this business case back to you so you can take this to your board and prove out the business aspect of it, prove out the ROI, that there is actually a use case for going forward with S/4HANA from the business side. So we understand the technology side, and now we're going to introduce to you how we build the business case. So if we can go to the next slide. So this is, again, a product called SAP Value Lifecycle Management. This is the 2.0 version of it. Very similar look and feel as Brad showed you with FIORI. And the reason is we built it in FIORI. The predecessor to this was a product called the Quick Value Assessment. That was more like a SAP GUI lookalike, so it wasn't all that pleasant visually, and it wasn't all that easy to use. But what you'll see here, as what we try to do, is we gather the information from you, from your current system, to be able to build out the business benefits, the benefit calculations. So if you look at the top right, it'll come back with, by line of business, it'll come back with the one-time business benefit, and then, of course, the recurring benefits. And as you can see, this is in each line of business that we can drill down and take a look at the various areas here. And including there, we have over 200 value drivers, a guided product recommendation as to what products you're interested in, the real-time output. You know, some of our tools like the BSR, sometimes you have to wait to get the output to get that back from SAP. This is something that's in real time that we continually can make iterations of, that we can go in and drill down into the KPIs and make changes if we need to. But the whole idea is that we can have this completed, depending on that prep work, that upfront prep work, within literally a few hours, that we can have a business case. So if we go to the next slide, so we have the business benefits, and then as part of this process, we also need to lay in the costs. So we need to find out what your licensing costs are when moving to S4, your maintenance costs, the project costs. This is where Dickinson and Associates would come in. They would take a look and come up with what the services costs would be. Maybe some costs moving to the intelligent enterprise. Our recommendation is to get to the core. At that point, we then, in a phased approach, would move into some of the other aspects of the intelligent enterprise to start to introduce that after we move to the core. And of course, the infrastructure costs here as well. So once we have the business benefits and the calculations, and then we lay in the costs, if we can go to the next slide, you can see here we now have the project economics. And this is the reports that come directly out of the VLM. And so here you're going to start to see things like return on investment, the payback period. And then if you look on the right, the actual cash flow. And I love this slide. This is an example of one of our customers. The payback period was fairly short. Our payback periods typically don't go any further out, anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But look what happens after the payback period. And I like to say to the customers, you guys, is that the longer you wait to move to S4, this is the amount of money that's costing you, or that money that you could be saving by moving to S4, because it is much more expensive to continue to run your business in ECC, both from a feature function perspective, but also here from a business perspective. And so we have this information. We were able to now make sense of it. As I mentioned before, we can create iterations, go back and make calculation changes or changes to the input, and take a look at what the output would come out to in terms of the cash flow and the payback period and so forth. So if we can go to the next slide. There are various ways of how we gather that information and enter that information or get that information into the VLM. We could use the landscape data agreement, the EWA product. So we could do the landscape usage as well. Or if you already have a BSR, a business scenario recommendation, we can get a much more accurate view of your scope of the current ECC and your current ECC environment. If you don't have a BSR, we can still move forward with the standard industry templates, which are very accurate based on many of the industries that we sort of create KPIs, come back with KPIs by including that particular industry's KPIs in the calculation. So if you don't have a BSR, we can certainly continue to move forward with a SAP industry template. And then, of course, as I mentioned, you're going to need some of your basic company information, like annual revenue, the operational income, how many employees, cost of sales, total inventory. The more accurate information that we can get into this, the more accurate will be on the outcome and the results of being able to show what the return on investment is moving forward. Very, very nice tool. The output is real time, so we can actually create and generate, sort of like the BSR, a series of slides that actually you can take to your board of directors to show them, okay, we understand the feature functions. We know this is good. We know we can do our close end, month close in every day if we wanted to, as opposed to waiting to the end of the month or taking 2 weeks. So we know about that. And now we know how much, not only is it going to cost us, but certainly what the benefits are around it and what our return on investment will be. So once we have that, if we can go to the next slide. The objective here is to get in front of you at the executive level, or to get to the board, to promote the business benefits and the ROI to moving to S4, and to create a safe and fast roadmap to S4 HANA as well. So those are the objectives of creating this, what we call virtual meeting. We do this jointly with Dickinson. Dickinson has already been through training with us in the BLM. We continue to work with them, and we will continue as we see customers wanting to have a business case that they can take to the executive board. So when we're doing this with you, the agenda would be to show you the business case. So we will have this when we come and go through this this virtual meeting, which, by the way, shouldn't be more than 30 minutes, a half hour to an hour tops, and then do a project proposal, show you what the proposal will be, sort of like the roadmap moving forward from this into maybe some other aspects of moving to S, and once you get to S4, to moving to the intelligent enterprise. Some of these next steps could be deep dive with value engineering, if you want to get into more of a deeper dive. This, using the VLM, this can be done once we have the data. As I mentioned, within a couple of days, we can get back with something very accurate for your, based on your current environment. We could also do a pilot. We can, do a sandbox copy, do a pilot, and maybe that's the next step. And then, of course, the ultimate next step would be to move into a project. We have customers who have gone through everything in terms of pilots, in terms of understanding the feature functions, what it takes in terms of the methodology to move from ECC to S4 from a technology perspective. All they need is this piece here, because this is the piece that they need to go and to justify the dollars and to justify what they're going to get back once they've entered and understood all the business benefits moving to S/4HANA. So this is if you're in that category, this is where some of our customers are moving right into project once they have the okay from the board to move forward. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Brad to finish off.
All right, thank you, David. So next up, as Rob Jerome mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, this is a multi-part series. We've talked about why we believe this is the right time to move, but we also want to help companies understand how you move to S/4HANA, and you have options available. There are really three primary scenarios out there in the marketplace that get commonly discussed. The first one being a brownfield. To us, this is a conversion. It's a system conversion, and there can be a lot going on in this because you can be changing your database, your application layer, and even your operating system, and even hardware. And yet all of this can be accomplished in a weekend. It is a complete technical in-place conversion of a system that allows you to now be in a position to start to adopt things from the intelligent enterprise. Another approach is what's called a selective data transition, where a new SAP S/4HANA environment is stood up and data is carved out of your prior system and moved over to the new environment. Think of it almost like a mergers and acquisitions type of activity where you're carving out a part of a business. You can apply that concept to carving out part of a business to create a new S/4HANA environment. And then you always have the option of just a re-implementation, which is called a greenfield, to say, you know what, we built our environment prior to Y2K, and when we built it, we were doing it to solve that problem, and too often we said, just make it do what our current system does. So in fact, we're on a very solid ECC system, but it was built around the concept that was our business model in 1996. So if that's your situation and you believe that a new implementation is the right item for you, that's another path to S/4HANA. So in our next webinar, we will take a look at some of these models, probably most specifically focusing first on the brownfield and the selective data transition models. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions and answers. Spencer, do we have any questions in the queue?
Yes, we do. Thank you both, Brad and David. So we have a handful of questions and just a little bit of time here. So we'll see what we can get through. You had, first one, you had mentioned real-time notifications within FIORI. Are those triggered by a classic SAP workflow process?
So yes, they are. So the notifications that were on the right-hand side of that viewport actually flow to you through a workflow. Now, there are additional workflows that are enabled as part of S/4HANA. So there are elements there that were not previously available in ECC, but a standard SAP workflow can be one of the notifications that's pushed to you in that right-hand panel so that you could approve that purchase requisition in a timely manner.
Thank you. Let's see, you discussed the FIORI capabilities of S/4HANA, but can't I run FIORI with ECC as well? So
technically, yes. FIORI can run in with higher versions of ECC. However, what I will tell you is that for ECC, there were something like 75 to 100 apps available, and you know, just to be honest, they were the alpha phase of those apps. They were not feature rich. However, today with S/4HANA 1909, there's over 12,000 apps that are out there. There is a very robust set of apps that drive these embedded analytics and push this type of information to you. So while technically you can run it with ECC, you will not realize the business benefits that you would with moving to S/4HANA.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, and the last question we'll get to here. On the evolution of insights slide, it showed traditional operational reporting versus embedded analytics. Can you use both?
So you can. So in that particular slide, there were 6 grids there, and I started with the dynamic tiles, and then I had the overview pages. So all of those are standard capabilities within S/4HANA. But the bottom right-hand corner, which was dashboards, those dashboards, or storyboards as we would probably call them today, are really provided by the SAP Analytics Cloud. But those tools, those dashboards, those analytics can be provided to you through your FIORI viewport, the Launchpad. So it can all be embedded so that you go to one place to get these insights. But the bottom right-hand corner did utilize the SAP Analytics Cloud to provide some of that information.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so I'll take just the last minute here to thank you, David, Brad, and RJ, and to thank all of you who attended. Again, for anyone who asked a question, if we were not able to get to it, we will follow up directly to provide you the answers. And I would like to note that you should all be on the lookout. We will have a follow-up webinar that Brad mentioned on how to move to SAP S/4HANA coming up next month. And we will separately be releasing more content, such as an ebook coming up on moving to S/4HANA within the coming weeks. So stay tuned for more information from us and more webinars down the road. So thank you again for joining, and have a great day.